The day began like any other in the South China Sea, the sun glinting off the waves as the USS Theodore Roosevelt sailed with its strike group. Sailors moved with routine efficiency, the ship a symbol of American power in contested waters. This was a freedom of navigation operation, meant to assert that these sea lanes remain open to all. For the crew, it was just another day, far from home but with a clear mission project influence, ensure stability. Yet beneath the calm, geopolitical tensions simmered. China claims nearly the entire sea, building and militarizing artificial islands to enforce its stance. The U.S. Navy's presence directly challenges these claims, each patrol a move in a high-stakes chess match. The risks were understood, but on this morning they felt distant. The horizon was empty, except for their own ships. Radars showed only commercial traffic. The air buzzed with the sounds of machinery and jets, a portrait of readiness. But in the South China Sea, peace is fragile. The calm can be deceptive, masking deep currents of rivalry. The business of the day was about to be interrupted, dramatically and without warning. The stage was set for an unprecedented confrontation. Trouble first appeared as fast-moving dots on radar, at first routine, then multiplying. Chinese vessels often shadow U.S. ships, but this was different. The number of contacts kept growing, converging from multiple directions. The mood on the bridge shifted from routine to tense focus. Soon the dots became visible, a flotilla of Chinese warships, destroyers, frigates, corvettes, surrounding the American group. The Chinese ships weren't just following, they were maneuvering, taking up positions. The encirclement was deliberate. The open sea suddenly crowded and claustrophobic. American commanders had to quickly assess, was this a drill, a show of force, or something more dangerous? The Chinese maintained a professional distance, but their formation was aggressive. They created a perimeter, a ring of steel, around the U.S. ships. The message was clear. The U.S. Navy was not welcome, and China had the numbers to prove it. The routine patrol had escalated into a major international incident. Every move was now under intense scrutiny. The American ships held their course, but the stakes had changed. The world's two largest navies were locked in a silent standoff. Tension crackled in the air, every decision carrying enormous risk. The balance of power in the region was being tested in real time. The U.S. crews braced for what might come next. The South China Sea had become a chessboard. One wrong move could change everything. The incident was no longer just about presence, it was about resolve. Within an hour, the American carrier group was surrounded by 24 Chinese warships. The USS Theodore Roosevelt, once master of the sea, was now caged in a vast net of gray hulls. Chinese destroyers and frigates formed the outer ring, corvettes darted closer in, a display of control and capability. Outnumbered 8-1, the American sailors felt the psychological weight. Rear Admiral John Harris watched, calm but calculating, determined to protect his ships and avoid war. The Chinese ships made no overtly hostile moves, but their presence was menacing. This was a choreographed show of power, not a random encounter. Flight operations on the Roosevelt were suspended. Every sailor was on high alert. The American ships adjusted course, maintaining their mission but ready for anything. Weapons were ready but silent, damage control teams on standby. The U.S. group pressed forward, a small island of defiance in a sea of Chinese steel. The world was not yet watching, but the consequences of the next few hours could be global. The standoff was a test of nerves, discipline, and strategy. Both sides knew the risks of escalation. The balance between deterrence and provocation was razor thin. The American resolve was clear. They would not be turned back. The Chinese message was equally clear. Their dominance in these waters was real. The next move would determine the outcome. The world held its breath. From the bridge of the USS Kidd, the view was surreal. Modern Chinese warships on every side. These were not outdated vessels but advanced destroyers and cruisers, proof of China's naval transformation. The American sailors watched their counterparts, both sides locked in a cold, professional stare. Tension was palpable. Every gesture mattered. The U.S. ships, though outnumbered, were formidable. Aegis destroyers and a carrier bristling with air power. The American response was disciplined, steady course, no sudden moves, jets ready but grounded. The message was clear. We have a right to be here, but we won't fire first. Both sides walked a tightrope. One mistake could spark catastrophe. The American ships pressed deeper into the encirclement, the Chinese circle widening but never breaking. The standoff was a silent test of wills. Every second, the risk of miscalculation loomed. The commanders relied on professionalism to keep the peace. The sea of gray hulls was both a warning and a challenge. The U.S. group refused to be intimidated. The world's attention was about to turn to this tense confrontation. As the ships held formation, the standoff shifted to the radio waves. Both navies used Channel 16 for bridge-to-bridge communication, a maritime lifeline. A calm, accented English voice from a Chinese destroyer hailed the Roosevelt, "You are entering Chinese waters, change course immediately." The American reply was measured, "We are operating in international waters in accordance with international law. We will maintain our course." The exchange was formal, each side stating its position for the record. The radio chatter became a constant backdrop, Chinese warnings, American firmness. "Your actions are provocative and dangerous. Turn back," the Chinese repeated. The U.S. response never wavered. "We are operating lawfully. We will continue our mission." This was not an argument but a strategic dialogue, each side signaling resolve to the other and the world. The professionalism of the radio operators was a safety valve, preventing escalation. Tone and language mattered as much as the words themselves. Both sides avoided direct threats, keeping the situation from boiling over. The radio became a tool for managing tension, not inflaming it. The world would eventually hear these recordings, a record of restraint under pressure. Communication was the thin line between standoff and conflict. The verbal dance was as critical as the maneuvers at sea. The standoff continued, but the dialogue kept war at bay. The crisis was being managed word by word. For hours the standoff held, two navies locked in a tense ballet across the South China Sea. Every sailor knew a single misstep could trigger disaster. Rear Admiral Harris's orders were clear: defend if attacked, but avoid escalation at all costs. The most dangerous moments came as Chinese corvettes made high-speed passes, testing American resolve. The U.S. captains adjusted course just enough to avoid collision, never backing down. It was a high-stakes game of chicken with thousands of lives at risk. Gradually, the aggressive maneuvers ceased. The radio chatter faded. Both sides had made their point. Capability and resolve had been demonstrated. The peak of the crisis had passed. The test was over, not with a bang, but with a subtle easing of tension. The razor's edge had been walked, this time without bloodshed. The end of the standoff was deliberate and slow. The Chinese warships peeled away in small groups, dissolving the encirclement. The process took over an hour, allowing both sides to save face. The Americans had completed their mission. The Chinese had demonstrated their power. Relief swept through the Roosevelt as the last Chinese ship disappeared from view. Rear Admiral Harris ordered a return to normal operations. The sea was open again, but the memory of the crisis lingered. Neither side wanted war. The costs would be catastrophic. This was high-stakes signaling, not a prelude to conflict. Professionalism and communication had prevented disaster. The incident was a testament to crisis management at sea. The world had come close to the brink and stepped back. This incident unfolded in one of the world's most strategic waterways, the South China Sea. 1/3 of global shipping passes through here. Any disruption would shake the world economy. The sea is rich in resources and fiercely contested by multiple nations. China's sweeping claims clash with international law and its neighbors' rights. For the U.S., the issue is freedom of the seas, a principle underpinning global order. If China can close off these waters, it sets a dangerous precedent for the world. The standoff was more than a naval encounter, it was a clash of visions for the future. The peace here is fragile, the risks immense. The incident showed how quickly disputes can escalate. The world's attention is now fixed on this crossroads. The stakes could not be higher. The day 24 Chinese warships surrounded a U.S. carrier group will be studied for years. It marks the rise of China's naval power and the end of uncontested American dominance in the region. Communication and professionalism proved vital in preventing conflict. Military-to-military channels are essential guardrails in tense moments. This crisis was diffused, but future encounters may be riskier. The peace in the South China Sea is not guaranteed. It requires constant effort and diplomacy. The world's economic security depends on stability here. The incident is a call for international diplomacy and adherence to law. The standoff was a wake-up call. We can step back from the brink, but only if we learn from it. The challenge is to ensure we never get this close again.